Shalom, Akim. It's the brother CHAARAWTAZA, GMSORLANDO, Florida. Alright, so a lot of the brothers was asking me about this sign right here, and if I could get it copied or scanned and sent to them. Well, I don't know how to do that, so what I'm going to do is today, I'm going to go ahead and go over the sign for you, and you can make it yourself. Alright, so, okay, so, yeah. So basically all I did was, I got this picture right here out of a book. Alright, it's a Levite. Actually, that's the picture right there. It's a Levite. It's a West African man with the breastplate. And all I did was I had it enlarged, and I just colored it in with some markers and shit like that. Alright. The same thing with this. Okay. So on this side right here, it has from Israel to West Africa, it has Europe to West Africa, tracking the migrations, and right here it has a map. Now this map right here, it says North Africa and the Israelite migrations, and it tracks us from Israel, okay, to North Africa all the way to West Africa, and it does the same right here. This is also another map that shows us going from Jerusalem down to Egypt, down to Central Africa, and over across to West Africa. So you got the Songhai Empire, the Shanti, the Yoruba, and all of them. And like I said, this is a picture. Alright, it says Ashanti ambassador crossing the Paro. It says from a drawing by Sir Henry Monroe Stanley. Does it have a year? No, it doesn't have a year. So, okay. So, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to try to read all of this. This is from Israel to West Africa. So, I'm holding my cell. I'm using a cell phone, so just bear with me. Alright, so it says Professor J. Williams of Boston College, who spent more than 11 years investigating, says the Hebrews are the parent stock from which the ancient Ashanti and related West Africans evolved. He adds, it was the continuous influx of Hebrew settlers tracking up the Nile which eventually spread itself across Africa to the Niger River and thence pretty much the whole of West Africa. This is from Stephen Jacobs and Moses Farrar, and the book is called The Hebrew Heritage of Black Africa, page 76. Alright, so I'm going to go kind of fast. It says, in the year 65 BC, the Roman armies under General Pompey captured Jerusalem. In 70 AD, General Vespasian and his son Titus put an end to the Jewish state with great slaughter. During the period of the military governors of Palestine, many outrages and atrocities were committed against the residue of the people. During the period from Pompey to Julius, it has been estimated that over 1 million Jews fled into Africa, fleeing the Roman persecution and slavery. The slave markets were full of black Jewish slaves. Rudolph R. Windsor, From Babylon to Timbuktu, page 84. Alright, so. And basically what I did was I typed all this stuff up. I got this all out of books that I have, and I typed it up. And I cut out I printed it out, and I cut out the page, the type up page, and I just put glue on the back of these, and I glued it up onto the board. And then I used, if you can see it, I used shipping tape, clear shipping tape, and I just taped the whole thing up so that it'll be laminated. But onto the third tile, it says many other Jews fled into African countries such as Egypt, Ethiopia, Cyrenaica, which is Libya, throughout the last 2,500 years. The main factor that have contributed to the social migration of the Jews were wars, religion, persecution, and commerce. All these factors were operating and gave rise to the African Jewish population. Rudolph R. Windsor, From Babylon to Timbuktu, page 84. On to the next tile. The Jewish philosopher Philo, about 440 BC to 40 AD, who lived in Alexandria, said that 1 million Jews resided in Libya, Cyrenaica, and Egypt from the Catabathmos to the borders of Ethiopia. Rudolph R. Windsor, from Babylon to Timbuktu, page 84. Long before the destruction of Jerusalem by Titus, the Mediterranean shore of Africa had become lined with influential Jewish colonies, which undoubtedly were in constant mercantile relations with the interior of the dark continent, Africa. But Egypt especially had been the haven of the refugees from Jerusalem at the time of the Babylonian captivity, and for many subsequent centuries the Jewish element in the land of the pharaohs continued to increase and prosper. Professor Joseph J. Williams, Hebrewism of West Africa, page 23. On Cyrenaica, with Benghazi, Al-Marj, Denmark, and Tobruk as its chief cities was a Roman port in East Libya. It bordered on the Mediterranean, and many Jews lived there. In 55 ACE, the Jews rebelled against Rome. Roman might was exerted, and the rebellion was soon crushed. The outcome caused all Jewish communities of the area to again disperse southward in two hordes. That's where you have this right here. Alright, southward in two hordes. A number of the Jews crossed the bend of the Niger onto Senegal and to Futa. These Jews encountered others whose dispersal was flowing westward via southern Morocco and Mauritania. Adrar. Joseph V. Malcolm, From Hebrews to Jews, African Origins of Modern Judaism, page 18. Alright, these conclusions in turn are affirmed by the fact that scholars report that the ancestors of the Fulani, Ashanti, Ewe, Yoruba, Bantu, and other ethnic groups traveled the very same migration routes. Professor Joseph J. Williams, Hebrewisms of West Africa, page 57. There existed prior to the slave trade and subsequent to it many Jewish tribes, colonies, and kingdoms in West Africa. Rudolph R. Windsor, From Babylon to Timbuktu, page 21. The Moorish writer Leo Africanus informs us of the past existence of a medieval Hebrew state called Kamanuria or Kanuria. Its two main cities were Kamnuri, obviously its capital, in Nagahari. And this state was located north of the Senegal. Now I have a map. It's not on here, and I meant to put it on here, where it has all of the West African during the slave trade, their names, what they called it, and then on there it has the Kingdom of Judah, Juda. But I don't have that map on here. It says Jews of Balad al-Sudan. It says describes West African Jewish communities of who were connected to known Jewish communities from the Middle East, North Africa, or Spain and Portugal. Various historical records attest to their presence at one time in Ghana, Mali, and I put 1 Chronicles 6:1 and 6:29 because in there was a son of Levi that his name was Mali. Alright. It says in Songhai empires, then called the Balad as Sudan, from the Arabic meaning land of the blacks. Alright. That's from Wikipedia. Alright, so here I read this too. It says the true Israelites were scattered in all directions. The slaves that were brought to America are descendants of those Israelites that were disbanded into Africa many years ago, about 2,500 years ago. You can look this up. You just type this in, what I read in Google, and it should find it. It says, Serene 125 CE, Israelites attempted to establish a Hebrew African empire. Roman suppression forces further Israelite migrations into Africa. 2. Elephantine 600 BCE, Israelites established a garrison. 700 CE, Roman conquered and enslaved over 100,000 Israelites. Tementite 1492, Ottoman Muslims destroyed a 1,000-year-old Hebrew settlement. Ethiopia 955 BCE, Menelik, son of Solomon, which I don't really go with this, but I'll read it anyways. Son of Solomon and the Queen of Sheba establishes an Israelite dynasty that lasted almost 3,000 years. Uganda, a line of 33 kings, tracking their lineage to King David, Uganda tradition. Libya, 640 CE, Israelite Queen Dea Capina organizes an army to defend against Roman and Arab incursions into North Africa. Kazembe, 1831. Shemitic Africans whose kings wear the Mitri head wrap resembling that of the Israelite high priest. Marrakesh, 1000 CE to 1500 CE. Hebrews allowed to practice the Torah Islamic period. Tangier, 1150 CE. Israelites sanctuary established by Beni Mosi, son of Moses. Kamnuria, medieval Hebrew state north of the Senegal River. Ghana, 300 CE. Hebrew dynasty established by Za el Yemeni, lasts about 1,000 years, fondly known as the Songhai Empire. Lamlam, 12th century Hebrew kingdom, 200 miles east of Timbuktu, El Edrazi. Niger River, Sirsa, 1850 CE, 7 princes descending from the kings of the ancient Israelites. Fatazi tradition. Alright, so that's Israel to West Africa. And that's all the information I have on that. See the pictures. Now I'm going to read from Europe to West Africa. Alright, it says, Jews from Spain to Portugal and Morocco in later years confirmed communities off the coast of Senegal and on the island of Cape Verde. These communities continue to exist for hundreds of years but have since disappeared due to the changing social conditions, migrations, and the transatlantic slave trade. This is from Wikipedia, same thing on the Jews of Balad el Sudan. Alright. Alright, so this is by edict, this is next tile. By edict of King Manuel of Portuguese in 1496, banishing the Jews from Portugal, all Jews were to be cut out of Portugal by October 1497. Rudolph R. Windsor, From Babylon to Timbuktu, page 125. Now we're going into the Jews migrating from Europe to West Africa. Alright, next tile. As it has been mentioned before, King John of Portugal furnished ships in order to deport the Jews to any country they desired. However, unscrupulous Portuguese captains exacted as much money as they could from the Jews, and dumped the human cargo at various places along the West African coast. As a result, Alan Goodby writes that Winwood Reed met blacks in Guinea, West African, who called themselves Portuguese and claimed descent from Portugal. Reed wrote in his book in 1864, in another case, Daniel P. Mannix writes us that Captain Cutler, a slave trader from Boston, was barbarously murdered with 2 of his sailors by a community of black Portuguese established near the mouth of Sierra Leone. Rudolph R. Windsor, from Babylon to Timbuktu, page 124. As you recall, in the year 1484, King John of Portugal deported great numbers of black Jews to the African island of St. Thome, the island of St. Thome near Nigeria. Rudolph R. Windsor, from Babylon to Timbuktu, page 124. Next tile. It is certain that many black Jews of Portugal, St. Thome, and Angola, who became victim of the Inquisition and Portuguese persecution, was sold into the slave trade. Rudolph R. Windsor, from Babylon to Timbuktu, page 130. Let us return now to the Jews of St. Thome Island. Scholars are uncertain concerning the exact number of Jews deported to this island. It is certain that the number lies in the thousands and perhaps of tens of thousands. Rudolph R. Windsor, from Babylon to Timbuktu, page 125. From such inquiries, the British linked the Ibos to the Jews expelled by the Portuguese, or simply concluded that the Ibos are a branch of Hebrews. This is from said by a man named Baston in 1938, from Professor O. Alizazi, and the book is Ibos, Hebrews, Exiles from Israel, page 24. Alright, and this is the last one. This goes along with this picture right here. It says, Ashanti Jews have a breastplate like the high priest in ancient Israel, and is divided into 12 parts, representing the 12 tribes of Israel. Exodus 28 and 1 and 29. Rudolph R. Windsor, from Babylon to Timbuktu, page 130. That's what you see in this picture right here. That's the breastplate. See it right there? Alright. It says, with the arrival of the missionaries in Nigeria in about 1842, with striking assertion by Dr. Baston of the Anglican Missionary Mission, 1861, that the Ibos are a branch of Hebrews, and so their history and origin should be concealed to them, or else their practice of ancient Judaism could dwarf the spread of Christianity in Igbo nation of Nigeria. The British decided to deal drastically with the entire Igbo or Hebrew nation, destroying both their kingdoms, replacing them with warrant chiefs solely chosen to serve in the interests of the British, not the people, carrying away their artifacts and deliberately erasing their history and particularly their Jewish identity. Professor O. El-Azize, Ibos, Hebrew Exiles from Israel, page 126. And then the last one says, such is the imperfect sketch of my memory has furnished me with the manners and customs of the people among whom I draw my breath. I cannot forbear suggesting what has long struck me very forcibly, namely, the strong analogy which even by this sketch, imperfect as it is, appears to prevail in the manners and customs of my countrymen and those of Jews before they reached the land of promise, and particularly the patriarchs, while they were yet in that pastoral state which is described in Genesis, an analogy which alone would induce me to think that the one people had sprung from the other. This is from Orlando Equiano, which he was a slave. He was a West African that was taken into slavery and eventually bought his own freedom. This is from the book, The Interesting Narrative of the Life of Equiano, Orlando Equiano, page 19 to 20. And this is what he said. He believed that our people could be our people were Hebrews, Israelites. So that's the front of the sign. Okay. Jews migration to West Africa. Now we also have another side. This is what the whole sign looks like. Alright, so matter of fact, I'll do this another day. But that's the sign. So with that, this is Brother CHAARAWTAZA, GMSORLANDO. Alright. I hope this help you brothers. You know, with that I say, YAHAWASHI, YAHAWASHI, Barak Adam, Shalom Akim.